So, Christmas a time for what? A time for great joy. Many people, of course, having different ideas of what great joy is at Christmas time. And some would choose to go into a more spiritual sense of the great joy of Christmas. Well, what is the spiritual sense of the great joy at Christmas? Where did this idea come from of great joy? Who coined the phrase great joy even at Christmas time or even beyond Christmas time in everyday walk of your life? Well, as humans, it might take us a bit of a leap or a stretch to get into the spiritual. But we have to, in this same sense, submit ourselves to the spiritual. What spiritual are we talking about here? We're talking really at Christmas time, even at other times. Why just at Christmas time? Of the Anointed One. Who is the Anointed One? The Anointed One is the Christ. So even at Christmas time, this time period where we apparently celebrate Christ, the Anointed One, en masse, though do we so much anymore. But of course, the Jesus, the name Jesus, the name Jesus Christ, the birth of Jesus Christ, this all comes up by course of event at Christmas time. Maybe you've received a card, maybe it just flicked up on the screen of your computer or on television, or you saw a rare scene of a manger scene around town. Either way you look at it, whether you're directly focused on the same through courses of an event here, the Christian celebration aspect of Christmas time, though the roots of Christmas even have its roots in celebrating the winter solstice, which is on the 21st, and light becoming more apparent by the 25th of December. So light again being central to Christmas, and different people taking different forms of celebration in regard to that said light, though not always thinking of the roots of where the light comes from. And what light are we talking about here? Either true light or false light, or even the light of the sun as originating out of the winter solstice, the darkest day of the year, and then 3, 4, 5 days later, the light becoming more apparent to the eye. So light really largely being at the centre of all of this. But whose light are we talking about here? False light, true light, or even sunlight? Well, it's interesting when you broaden your thinking, and we've heard it a million times, angels appearing to shepherds on hills looking after their sheep at night time. And it's an apparent story that appears on the front of Christmas cards, and fairy tale looking angels appearing in tinsel and light, and looking like mere fairies, and bringing Christmas into the realm of fairy tale religion. And even the wise men visiting Jesus at the manger scene isn't true, because Jesus would have been 2 years old by the time they visited Jesus. Herod had asked the wise men to come aside privately. He was concerned, the whole of Jerusalem was concerned about the Christ is being born. The 3 wise men had said they'd come to worship him. The Christ, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. Well, they were very concerned, and so Herod calls these wise men aside and diligently inquires, when did you first see the star? And it would have been 2 years earlier. So the wise men were following the star for 2 years until the star stopped over where Jesus was. And so you have a sense of light there, even coming from a star. So following the true light as God sending this star to direct them to the very birth place, being Bethlehem, but not necessarily the stable where Jesus was born. Jesus was actually 2 years old by the time the wise men had got to where Jesus was, the star stopping over where the child was. So you had a star that moved, miraculously moved through the heavens and suddenly stops over where the child was. And if you read the scriptures diligently, as you should, you'll read that the star stopped over the house where Jesus was. So it appears that no longer living in a stable where he was born, but 2 years old, and the wise men bringing their gifts. So Herod had diligently inquired of the wise men how and where and what when did the star appear, and so he of course he feels a threat to his kingdom, and has every child under the age of 2 years old killed. And of course, you had the great census. Everyone had to return to their hometown, Mary going back to Bethlehem. And of course, they had their names recorded in the great census, largely so they could pay their taxes. But other than this, so they could keep an eye on people and work out where they are, what they're doing. So kind of even back then, an all-seeing eye system. And of course, Jesus had to flee, Joseph being visited by an angel being a messenger. Now, the word angel has been kind of changed over the years. What you usually picture when you picture an angel, a being, white hair and white garment, and in a sense, a bright light. But who's to say all messengers, the word angel means messenger. Who's to say that these messengers are always dressed in white and always have white hair? So we tend to get a lot of fairy tale ideas in our head, even regarding the story of Christmas. And of course, Jesus fleeing to Egypt to escape Herod's wrath. And of course, having a census done back then, how did they even find the children under 2 years old? Because they had the great census. Everyone having their names recorded in a book, and therefore their address going with this, and in a sense, a great census, so they would know or have some idea of where to find all these children. Herod having these children killed even under the age of 2 years old, after searching, listening to the wise men diligently, when did you first see the star, 2 years prior? And of course find Jesus and an angel appearing to them and telling them not to go back to Herod, but to go some other way, and not to report back to Herod, who said he wanted to go and worship the child. Well, of course, he was lying. He wanted to go and kill the child. So who put in his heart to kill the child? So there's a definite sense of the war of the worlds here, even with the birth of Jesus Christ, and of course angels appearing in the story there, and Jesus the Christ, coming to earth. And of course time would go by and it'd be more apparent as to what the ministry of Jesus was going to be all about. What was the purpose of Jesus' birth? To ultimately, for God so loved the world. So you got a sense of God so loved the world. In other words, he loved all the people in the world. He loved mankind. So God so loved the world. In other words, he so loved mankind that the Son of God left his place in heaven to come to earth. To come to who? To come to mankind. So if you open these verses up that maybe you've heard a million times and they just become old hat and they have no effect on you. So for God so loved the world. This is God, the Father of all spirits, whose goings forth have been from of old, from everlasting. Who's going forth? Jesus is going forth. Jesus is going forth, have been from of